Welcome to Acumentis Acumen, the property podcast that delivers expert insights and answers to your burning industry questions. Join our property valuers monthly as they distill their wisdom into each episode. It's your compass in the ever-evolving real estate world. This month's episode is a big one. Let's jump on in.
Welcome to Acumentis Acumen podcast, where we dive into the real estate industry. In today's episode, we'll be discussing factors influencing the market, like interest rates, inflation, and addressing the burning questions coming through from homeowners and investors. Joining me today, I have two seasoned experts from the Acumentis valuation team, Peter Raptis, Director Valuations, and Tasso Balomenos, Senior Valuer, both from our Sydney residential team. So thank you for your time in joining us. I might throw to Peter first and get you to kick off with a bit of a current overview of the market and any trends that you're seeing or global and local factors influencing the real estate market at the moment.
Oh, okay, thanks for having us along today. What's happening in the marketplace? Well, 2023, I guess, was a recovery from what happened in 2022. The simple snapshot is in 2021, the market pretty much in Sydney went up by about 25%. In 2022, it came down by about 14%. And then last year, prices went back up by about 11%. So that's kind of where we are now. We seem to have weathered the storm with interest rates to a certain degree, and I know we'll be talking about that, but that's where we are now. 2023 was a recovery from 2022.
Yeah, I agree. In regards to the current trends, I think quality stock still remains quite healthy. I don't think the FOMO is as strong as it these days as it was probably back in 2021. So that sort of has slowed down over the last 6 to 12 months. But good quality stock still remains quite healthy, in my opinion.
Okay, so a positive sort of snapshot there of the market. And the big question on everyone's lips, the topic of discussion is interest rates, obviously, increasing and continuing to increase with those multitudinous rate rises over the past 12 to 18 months. So with this fluctuation, how do you foresee this impacting affordability of homes for prospective buyers? And are there any particular strategies that you would advise people considering entering the market in this current interest rate environment?
I think there's two groups of people now. There's those people who took out a mortgage a couple of years ago and have had to, I guess, suffer rising interest rates, and that's having an impact on those people and, whether they're owner-occupiers or investors. So there's that group. The other group is people who are new now, new entrants. They might be a new investor buying their first property or even maybe a second investment property. And you've got first home buyers. So for people that are new, well, this is the new world now where interest rates are. So they've walked in, they know what they can borrow, and they will then act accordingly. So for them, it's not a rude shock. It's just that's the way the world is. It's a bit like, if I could give an analogy, if you kept going to your favourite restaurant for the last 4 or 5 years and you notice they kept putting up the prices, you're probably at a point now where you're thinking, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to go back there anymore. As opposed to somebody who goes into that restaurant today for the first time and says, oh, well, that's what the prices are. They think nothing of it because they haven't really experienced those rising prices at all. So for some people, it's going to be a rude shock, or it has been. And then for others, it's just the way the world is now, and this is what it is.
Yeah, I agree. Just prior to Christmas, just calling around a few of the real estate agents, saying Merry Christmas and just talking about the market as a year. Most agencies had pretty good years in regards to their stock. But there was a shift in buyers. For instance, the inner west of Sydney, we're talking, from the centre of the CBD, 5 to 10 Ks out, there was most of the stock that they sold were investment properties. So someone had a second or a third property. They were feeling the pressures of all the interest rate rises. They were releasing that sort of stock. And interestingly enough, they said more than 70-80% of their buyers were first-time owner buyers. So the market was still very, very active. It was just a shift in buyers, is what the feedback I got from most agencies.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, some interesting insights there. Now, we've got a lot of questions that we're commonly getting asked, and you probably touched on a little bit here, but homeowners and investors often asking us that, should I buy, sell or renovate in the current market? What are the views there? What are the factors that they should be considering? So any thoughts on that?
Well, in terms of buying, I've always said, if you can afford to buy now. Don't put it off. Because if you put it off, you're always going to be chasing the market. And property really is a long-term investment. This is not the share market where I might buy some shares today and I might sell them in a week or two or a month. Property's a different kind of beast. So I think if you're looking at buying and you can afford to buy something, you should buy it now. On the proviso, you're going to hold it medium to long term, not I'm going to try and sell it within a year. So if you can buy, you should buy. Selling, well, it doesn't really matter if you're selling and buying in the same market. If the market's booming and you're selling your property, you're going to get a great price. But then you're going to have to pay a great price when you buy, unless you move somewhere completely different. So you have that aspect. And then renovating, where you've got to be mindful of renovating, is just the cost of renovations. So if you're renovating for profit to sell, you've got to be careful of that. Otherwise, if you're renovating to stay there, just bite the bullet and do it.
I agree. For many, many years, and I got taught this very young, I've been asked this question prior to being a valuer. I've always had the theory of buy whenever your pocket's ready. Between each person's different. I've had people that have been sitting on deposits for years and years, wanted to buy in a specific suburb. Yet they're determined to buy in that suburb, and they didn't want to buy in the fringe or the next suburb over. And all of a sudden, the market has gone way past them. They're sitting on a deposit for 3 years, and they end up buying 5 kilometres away from that suburb initially. So I always think if your pocket's ready, regardless of what, I spoke to Peter before, and he mentioned, when he bought his first home, interest rates were sitting at 17%, I think. Is that correct, Peter?
That's right.
And, and I know interest rates are hurting a lot of people at the moment, but if your pocket, your financial situation is ready, what are we waiting for to jump in when the interest rates come back 2-3 cuts? If you're ready, you're ready. Some of us might not be ready, but that's just my thoughts on it. I think if your pocket and your finances are ready, I'd always be willing to buy property.
Yeah, no, good advice. And I think that the expectation of that money being cheap when interest rates were so low needs, the shift now is real. So people just have to, save for those deposits or readjust where they can buy and get into the market as soon as you comfortably can without stretching too much with current rates. Good tips on the renovation there, obviously, with construction costs being so much higher than they were. It's just assess that profitability if you're going to sell. Another point that's coming through is the rising insurance costs. Many people are saying their premiums are escalating, obviously, with construction costs. So is there any advice you have there around what steps people could take to potentially mitigate that or to shed some more light into the why behind it?
Well, insurance costs have gone up because, obviously, of building costs, the rising cost of materials, and labour, and the average person in the street, there's not much you can do about it. If building prices have gone up 35%. That's what it is. The only thing you can really do is shop around from one insurer to the next, but you should also, I think, be making sure that your property is insured for the right amount, because it's one of those things that rolls around each year. Your building insurance comes in and you just pay it and off you go without actually really asking yourself, is it really insured for the right amount? You know, maybe it's over-insured. My experience is probably not. Most people's homes tend to be underinsured.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's a problem in itself. If your house is underinsured and you have a problem, a serious problem like damage or fire, you could find yourself being shortchanged. So my advice is shop around. There's plenty of insurers in the marketplace, but also make sure your property is insured for the right amount. Don't just willy-nilly renew your policy without asking, is that a reasonable amount for our property?
Yeah, I tend to find, I agree with Pitt, I tend to find most homes are underinsured. People have set up a policy 5 years ago, and whilst they're happy to pay, let's say for example, $1,000 a year, have their house insured, they don't want to pay a little bit more, but they'll probably find that their house is underinsured by 30, 40, 50%.
Yeah.
I think that's dangerous because everyone's thinking, well, it can't happen to me, but let's be honest, how many house fires do we see every night on the news? With electric cars and battery systems. For me, that scares me a little bit. Insurance, health insurance, stuff like that. I think that's got to be a priority. People are happy to save $200 on insurance, underinsure their house, but they're more than happy to go on 2 or 3 holidays a year. So I think priorities need to be checked just a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and being shortchanged, often hundreds of thousands of dollars if there was an incident is not a position anyone wants to be in. So shameless plug here, we can help you out with that. So reach out to the Acumentis team, specialists in valuations for insurance purposes. So making sure that if anything does happen to your home, it's appropriately covered. So we'll give you that valuation for insurance purposes. Well, thank you very much for both of you for joining us today, given some interesting things for our listeners to ponder and answered some of the questions that we've had coming through. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe so you know when the next episode drops, and tune in next time.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Amy.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Acumentis Acumen. Tune into next month's podcast for another topical discussion. We hope you've been enjoying our podcast series. Don't forget to like and subscribe to catch the next episode of Acumentis Acumen, your property professional podcast.